14-7 is the score here with 13:58 left to go in the second quarter. You are watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. I'm Noah Alvarez, and we have Battle of the Victory Bell between these two teams. It's a rivalry, and LA Valley has dominated this rivalry over the past half-decade. It's actually been quite some time since LA Pierce had last won in this game. Both teams now are in the American Pacific Conference. It wasn't always the case. In 2019, they had a realignment. So the past two seasons, they've been in the same conference. Playing here at the conclusion of the season. However, it's not the conclusion for LA Pierce. They still have 2 games to make up due to 2 games being canceled during the conference year due to COVID protocols. 14-7 is the score in favor of LA Valley. Jackson will kick it off. Short, high kick taken at the 25-yard line over on the far side. Pierce will return it over to the 42-yard line. That was Chris Figueroa on the return. There's a 36-yard line, excuse me. No, 40-yard line. Mark him down at the 40. 13:53 left to go in the second quarter. For those of you who are wondering how we got here, Isaiah Johnson threw a 7-yard touchdown pass to Cameron Lewis, and the first offensive possession for the Monarchs to make it 6-0. 7-0 with the extra point, as Andrew Young going to throw quickly over to the near sideline. First defender misses the tackle, and picking up a gain of 10. Is wide receiver Cameron Moreno. There's Don Harrell over here on the near side who missed. Then in the ensuing possession, Andrew Young completed a 61-yard touchdown pass to Parker Pelletier. It was an offsides penalty on the Monarch defense. He got the defensive jump. It was a free play, and the defensive backs kind of gave up. Didn't expect Pelletier to make the catch in traffic. He was able to outrun all the defensive backs for the Monarchs, making it 7-7. Andrew Young, 1st and 10 on the midfield, on the 50-yard line. Quick throw over to the left side, overthrown. Now it'll bring up 2nd down and 10. And then if you just missed it, LA Valley scored on a 35-yard touchdown pass from Johnson to Cameron Lewis. He got past his defender, the corner on that far side, making this game 14-7. It's been an evenly matched game. LA Valley has 121 yards in offense. LA Pierce has 99. 13:02 left to go in the second quarter. This one's going to be blown dead. Delay of game penalty on LA Pierce. And if you remember from the first quarter, they burned all 3 timeouts in that first quarter. So they have 0 timeouts left in the remaining of first half. This will be the first that we see of Peyton Pelletier, the backup quarterback. Has a 35% completion percentage, 126 yards on the season, 2 interceptions, no touchdown passes, as Andrew Young has been taking most of the starting duties, as Hudson going to come in cleanly for the sack. A nice pass rush there from Elijah Hudson. PJ Trusty was also in on that one, as well as DeAnthony Jackson. 3rd and 23 coming up for the LA Pierce offense after that sack by Elijah Hudson. Some more DBs come out to the field for the Monarchs. 2 receivers to each side of Pelletier. He's going to quick punt this one on a 3rd down of all downs. This one's picked up by TK Drayton at the 28-yard line. TK is going to make a few players miss and get tackled down at the 40. So that's where LA Valley will start this drive. It was an interesting decision there. Ball at the 40-yard line for the Monarchs. It was 3rd and 23. The LA Pierce offense decided to pooch punt it with Peyton Pelletier, their quarterback, in. Didn't have a play, I guess, for 3rd and 23, and rather than calling some sort of draw or screenplay, they just decided, hey, let's punt it away. Saves ourselves some time. 12:05 left to go in the second quarter. Reminder, you're watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Isaiah Johnson going to scramble. Breaks contain on the right side. Passes the 40, gets brought down finally at the 38-yard line. Had a whole lot of room. It looked like the LA Pierce defense was running man-to-man because all their backs were turned to Johnson. As soon as he broke contain, he had a lot of green space out in front of him. First down for the Monarch offense. Ball at the LA Pierce 38-yard line. 3 receivers to Johnson's left. Cameron Lewis, the lone receiver, on the right. Jerry Mack in the backfield. They're going to hand it off to Mack. Mack up the middle and is tackled after a gain of about 1.5 yards. Isaiah Johnson, 2nd down and 9. Lewis makes the catch. No, he drops this one. It'll be
3rd down and 9.
Third and 9 coming up for the Monarch offense. Ball placed at the LA Pierce 37-yard line, and there's going to be a player slow to get up for the Monarchs, so we'll have an official timeout. 10:58 left to go in the second quarter. A reminder, you are watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. A reminder, at halftime, we'll be giving an all-conference team for the American Pacific Conference. The injured player is Cameron Lewis. He was the intended receiver on the last play. Bobbled the catch and then was tackled as he hit the ground. He's able to walk off under his own power, so a good sign. I mean, this Monarch team has been riddled with injuries the entire year. As I mentioned in the broadcast previously, 3 quarterbacks have started for this Monarch offense. All 3 have gone injured, which have thrusted Isaiah Johnson into starting quarterback duties. Third and 9 coming up for the Monarchs. 3 receivers to Johnson's left. Deep drop back. Going to try and hit Del Villard open the middle, and contact was made before he can make the catch. However, because the defender was able to get a hand on it, they're not going to throw a pass interference penalty. That was Jamal Rich in coverage. 4th and 9. Coming up for the Monarchs, 10:52. Back deep to punt is William Kalanji. He's going to fake the reverse to Dante Cox. Some little trickery. Kalanji's going to sidearm it to Fuller, and Fuller makes the catch. Did he get his feet in bounds? He did. The near side referee is going to say he did at the 23-yard line. They're going to talk it over and then now say he was out of bounds. It was a little sidearm throw from Kalanji to Fuller Jr. Tough to tell from my angle. It looked like Fuller Jr. made the catch cleanly, but he slid, so I don't know if he was able to toe tap. If he was able to stay on his feet, maybe he would have been able to get both feet in bounds on that one. However, he had to make a sliding grab on that one. Unable to get a body part down in bounds while making the catch. The referees call it. So LA Pierce will start now at their own 37-yard line after the turnover on downs. We've seen a few trick plays from the special teams of the Monarchs. 14-7 is the score. Monarchs lead over LA Pierce. It's the I formation, run play to the right. Dennis Jones makes the first defender miss. Now he's going to reverse field and has a lot more space on that way. Quarterback Andrew Young makes a block over on the edge, and he now marches out of bounds after a big gain of 22 on the play. But there is a flag thrown. Illegal substitution on the defense. Interception on the defense, or excuse me, illegal substitution on the defense. That penalty is declined. High formation, Young hands it off to Jones, and he's brought down in the backfield by who else? Elijah Hudson wearing number 24. Some chippy play over there on the far sideline as a lineman drove block a defensive back all the way into the LA Pierce sideline. And if you look at that sideline, it's very thin. Not a lot of players. As I mentioned, 29 players in total on this LA Pierce team. I believe that was John Moore who was on the receiving end of that penalty. Referees are talking over what the penalty is going to be, but I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Still waiting. 2 penalties. So 2 penalties, a legal shift on LA Pierce, and then an personal foul penalty on LA Pierce. Both will be conducted because the personal foul was after the play. So first and forever. First down coming up for LA Pierce. Andrew Young tries to get the defense to jump, but one of his receivers jumped. That's the 4th time we've seen the defensive line for LA Valley jump. Now they're going to talk about to see who jumped first. Number 88, Pelletier, also got a false start, and they're going to call a false start on the offense. So marching 5 yards back. 10-11 left to go in the second quarter. A lot of penalties being called here in the second quarter. Very similar to the last time we were out here for LA Valley and Moore Park College, a game in which LA Valley lost in heartbreaking fashion. But that second quarter took forever. There was a bunch of penalties thrown after a relatively smooth first quarter. So ball is now on the 39-yard line for LA Pierce. I formation. Other all-conference players on my all-conference team later in the broadcast as we have ready for the second half of action. LA Pierce kicks it off to Andre Lawson. He takes it at the 40 and goes about 2-3 yards forward. And that's where LA Valley will start their first drive of the second half. Reminder, I'm Noah Alvarez for the season finale as the Monarchs take on LA Pierce here at Monarchs Stadium in the community of Valley Glen in Los Angeles. 10th and final game for the Monarchs as Isaiah Johnson marches the offense back out. Johnson on the field with 3 receivers to his left, 1 to his right. Jerry Mack in the backfield. Looks like from my angle that one of the defensive ends is offsides. They're not going to throw a flag. Johnson forced to roll out to his right. Pressure in his face. He drops the ball, and that's something he's done a few times that he picks it up. He's able to have some blockers in front of him, and somehow he's getting positive yards. Passes midfield, and is finally brought down at the 43-yard line. Wow, just incredible. Just incredible. I mentioned Johnson might have a tough time getting to the next level because he started off the year as a linebacker, playing the last 6 or 7 so games at quarterback. Might be tough for the universities at the 4-year level, but just know this: if you're watching or you're getting these highlights, you know that Johnson can play any position. He's going to compete at the highest level as he flushes out to his right again, gets 2 yards and walks out of bounds at the 42-yard line this time. He has the speed, he has the agility, a very elusive ball carrier. Could probably play on your offense, but he's also a leader on defense too. Led the team through 3 games in tackles. As I mentioned, he started off the year as a linebacker, but was thrusted into quarterback play after injuries to the other 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Picked up the team's first big win of the season, or first win of the season, period, against LA Harbor. We were there for that game. That was a fun game to broadcast as Johnson now motions Mack to the flats, throws it out to Mack, and Mack can't handle the hot pass. Thought about running with the ball before he secured it, or maybe he heard footsteps from the defensive back Pelletier. As I mentioned, LA Pierce only has 29 players on their roster, so a lot of players play both ways. Pelletier playing corner on this near side, but also caught a touchdown pass earlier in the evening. 13:42 left to go. 3rd and 9 coming up for the Monarchs. Empty backfield for Johnson. LA Pierce sends 5. Johnson gets it over the middle to Fuller Jr. again. 6th reception on the evening. And he's brought down at the 25-yard line. Just a simple seam route for the sophomore to sophomore connection. It'll be enough for a first down. 25-yard line of LA Pierce. The Monarchs are moving. Fuller's going to check out. Dallas Martin going to check in, as well as Adrian Wallace. $13:11 left to go in the 3rd quarter. Ball on the left hash. They're going to motion Martin into the backfield. Fake the handoff to Martin. Johnson now takes it up the middle himself. He drags a few defenders all the way down to the 13-yard line. An LA Pierce defender slow to get up. They use that motion to kind of ignite the veer option look, if you're familiar with the collegiate option. And Johnson does a nice job of holding it in the belly of Martin just long enough to where the defenders think, okay, Martin's going to have the ball, right? No, Johnson pulls it, keeps it into his own gut, heads up the middle for about 4 to 5 yards. As we have some company in the broadcast booth with us, the youngsters outside playing. 12:45 left to go. There's a timeout on the field. You are watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. The Monarchs have a 27-7 lead over LA Pierce. We're here at Monarchs Stadium for the season finale for the Monarchs. Johnson in the backfield after the timeout. Two receivers to each side. No, three receivers to his right. Empty backfield for Johnson. Ball placed at the LA Pierce 13-yard line. They're going to fake, no, give the handoff to Martin this time on the end around. He takes it all the way into the end zone for 6. Good block out on the edge by Dante Coxum, who was playing receiver. Fuller Jr. was also getting a nice block down the field on his defensive back. That's an easy touchdown for Dallas Martin. That's his 5th touchdown on the season, his first on the year on the ground. Sophomore out of Sherman Oaks, California. And it looks like they're going to go for 2. 33-7 is a score pending the extra point. Remember, they missed an extra point after they went up 20-7. So Johnson now with 2 tight ends to his left. He's going to roll out to his right. No, pressure forces him to his left. Now he spins back around. He's losing field, throws it up in the back of the end zone for Richard Graham. And Richard Graham can't make the catch. Ooh. And there's some extracurricular activity going on between Johnson and an LA Pierce defender. Reminder, this is a rivalry game between these two schools. Only 11 miles separate them. A lot of these kids went to the same high schools, played youth football together or other youth sports together. And even though Pierce is on the downside, no wins on the year, only 13 points scored in total this season, they're still going to fight against some of their friendly rivals. Not so friendly there, as no flags were thrown. The referees kind of let them do their thing, hash it out. Johnson's walked to the sideline by a platoon of Monarch players, urging his quarterback to maintain his composure in this big lead. Don't want anything silly to happen to taint a rather, I don't want to use this word spectacular, but a rather satisfactory season, I guess you could say, from Isaiah Johnson. As DeAnthony Jackson will now kick it off. This one's going to go to the 24, taken there by Perdier as he reverses field, crosses the mid-45-yard line over on the left side, and he's tackled down at the 48. Pelletier on the return. So first down and 10 for LA Pierce. They trailed 33-7 here on Sportsnet USA.net. Ball on their 47-yard line. Here at Monarchs Stadium for the final time in the 2021 season. As I mentioned, it's been a fun one. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. A lot of player number switches, which has been difficult for a broadcaster. A lot of injuries, too, which I can imagine is equally as difficult for coaches. And another offsides penalty, this time on Jojo Morales. 95, no, false start on LA Pierce, so there must have been some movement on the offensive line to make Morales jump the way he did, backing him up to the 43-yard line. Andrew Young on the field doing quarterback duties. Jones in the backfield alongside him. Pelletier, the receiver, on the right side. Jones gets the handoff on the sweep. He breaks contain, passes midfield, and is chopped down at the 45-yard line of LA Valley. Gain of about 9. No, they mark him down at the 43-yard line, so give him about 14 yards on that play. Jones has been one of the lone bright spots for the LA Pierce offense this year. Entered tonight's game with 102 yards. At the half, he had 53 yards on the ground, so add 14 to that total. Two backs behind Young, that near formation, or split backs, I guess you could say. And, ooh, false start again. You saw it here from the broadcast booth. The left tackle, just very undisciplined play from the offensive line in total this evening. 2nd down and 6 coming up for the LA Pierce offense. LA Valley combating the two-back set with Morales at defensive tackle. They also have Richard Graham at DN. Francis Jr. also playing some D-tackle. Elijah Hudson on the DN on far side. Moore, TK Drayton, and Ellison on the far side secondary. Wilson, the deep safety. Michael Crowder, the middle linebacker. And Don Harrell, the near side corner. As this one's blown up, Francis Jr. nearly got the handoff, and he tackles Jones as there's some players wrestling down. They might have to separate those two as it looked like a guard. No, the left tackle, excuse me, getting up in the grill of the defensive end on that side. I can't see the number because his jersey's all scrunched up. Looks like a defensive back, so not a fair fight there. It's Jordan Stevenson, wearing number 23, battling out with the left tackle, down like at a wrestling match. But Francis Jr., he made the play. And as I finish that all-conference team for you later in the broadcast, he's another player that makes the all-conference team on defense. They go that wing T formation. Young's going to keep it himself. I think there was an option play. Opted to not pitch it to his running back, and he loses about half a yard. False start. No, false start. No, I think the referees are just saying roll the clock. 4th and 12 coming up for LA Pierce. 10 minutes left to go in the 3rd quarter. There's not going to be a punt unit that runs out, so they might either try the pooch punt once again, or you might see them go for it. 4th and 12. In a rivalry game, nothing to lose for LA Pierce and Anthony Harris, interim head coach. Wing T formation, they're going to motion the wing back over from left to right. Now they're going to throw it to him. It's a backward pass, and it's going to go out of bounds. Out of bounds. Oh, and extracurricular activity as a helmet of David Francis Jr. comes off. As I mentioned, no love lost between these two sidelines. LA Pierce not only making a fool of themselves on the field with the score being the way it is, but number 2, Christian Mills, had some words to say for Francis Jr. Kind of gave him a stiff arm much after the ball went out of bounds. It was a backwards pass, so if it didn't roll out of bounds, LA Valley had a clean look at recovering that one and maybe returning it for some yardage. However, it scoots out of bounds, and as Mills was making his way to the LA Pierce sideline, he had some words for Francis Jr. Stiff-armed his helmet. Francis Jr. helmet came clean off. And it's an unsportsmanlike penalty. Wow, on both teams. So they're going to call it on Jordan Stevenson. There must have been an unsportsmanlike penalty away from the action that we just saw there on the near side. However, those penalties offset, so it'll be LA Valley ball here at the LA Pierce 43-yard line. You're watching Monarch football here on sportsnetusa.net. The conclusion of LA Valley season here tonight at Monarchs Stadium. They have a 33-7 lead over LA Pierce. 9:34 left to go in the 3rd quarter. Reminder, I'm Noah Alvarez. Want to thank again all these staff here, both in the press box and with the athletic department, that's helped me every game get situated, help the internet connection. As there's some substitutions being made. Dante Coxum. Ethan is on now in at left tackle, by the way, wearing number 77. He didn't play the first half. They're going to throw a seam, and this was intended for Martin, making a play at the 20-yard line. On the ball was a safety, Devon Jefferson, flying in there. Very nice play on the ball there. Matt going to check in for Martin. 2nd down and 10 from the LA Pierce 43-yard line. 9:29 left to go. Valley in the green uniforms, gold bottoms, gold helmet, heading from right to left. It's going to be a speed option. No, it's a reverse to Coxum. Coxum, coming from the slot position, has nowhere to go, and he's tackled for a 5-yard loss. They try to run that speed option play. However, Coxum in the slot ran towards the action. He actually caught the pitch heading from right to left, while Johnson and Mack were heading right. It's a loss of 4. Good discipline there by Derek Cole, defensive end. He was a strong consideration to make the all-conference team. Just tough to put an LA Pierce player on there after the season that they had. As I mentioned, 0-7 on the year, 0-2 in conference play. Just nothing has gone right for this year. They're going to send 5. Johnson takes a deep drop back, forced to roll out to his right. Now finds an open wide receiver. That's Coxum on the far sideline. He reads his blockers. He has a burst of speed past the 20 and is pushed out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Big throw-in catch from Johnson to Coxum on 3rd down. It'll be 1st and 10 now from the LA Pierce 15-yard line. A relatively busy night here at Monarchs Stadium on the home side of things. One of the more packed nights we've seen. 2 receivers to each side for Johnson. He's going to look to his right, throw it over to Lewis. Lewis makes the grab. He falls into the end zone. However, the referee on that far side said he got stopped down at the 1. That would have been Lewis's 4th touchdown on the evening. Everything's working for the LA Valley offense. Now they're down at the LA Pierce 1-yard line. 7:50 left to go. Johnson, shotgun formation, 3 receivers to his left. Hands it off to Mack, and Mack gets it obliterated by a defender. Tony Overstreet coming from the linebacker position. Just clean Mack's clock right there. Wow. Now the referee having some words with the defender on the LA Pierce side. Is there a flag on the play? There is a flag. Offsides. So offsides on Tony Overstreet, the player who made the tackle for loss. He also was lined up offside, so kind of makes sense as to why he had such a good clean look at that one. He entered tonight's game with 14 tackles. 2 tackles for loss. He plays both running back and linebacker, 2A player for this team, as Johnson on the keep on the right side, and he sneaks in for a touchdown. 39-7 is the score pending the extra point. And now Johnson, I don't know if anything was said, but he definitely took a long stare to the LA Pierce sideline. And flags are thrown. It's unsportsmanlike conduct penalty thrown on Johnson. So now what you want to see here, especially for, Isaiah Johnson, a sophomore, Coach Lester Towns and the coaching staff, when they get called this offseason, asking about their player to go on to a 4-year university program, they're going to ask about his character and a lot of stuff off the field too. And that's just something that may come up. In a blowout win, Johnson was caught celebrating and maybe flexing a little bit too much on the opposing sideline in a game that is way out of hand, as this one also blocked at the line of scrimmage, but it is good. PAT is good. 40-7 is the score here at Monarchs Stadium. Reminder, you are watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. While we have a little break in the action, we got you the running backs, receivers, and the quarterback. How about some special team love for the all-conference team? Kicker from Santa Barbara City College, George Figueroa. 4 from 5 from field goal range. He also was 15 of 17 from extra points. Both led the conference, and he had the conference long of a 46-yard field goal. We were there for that game, and he hit that right here at Monarch Stadium, so I'm going to give him the kicker of the conference. Kick returner, I'm going to go Moore Park's very own Daniel Pierce. He averaged 36.5 yards per kick return. He also had 1 touchdown on the season. Punt return, going back to the Vaqueros of Santa Barbara City College, Marcus Bayon. Averaged 19.4 yards per punt return, which led the conference, and he also had a touchdown as a punt returner. We'll get you the defense, all conference. Sprinkled in here and there in the broadcast is D'Anthony Jackson now going to kick from his own 20-yard line after the penalty. Dennis Jones back deep to return. Jackson, left-footed, kicks this one pretty deep, all the way down to the 33-yard line. Jones returns this one on the left side and walks out of bounds. A lot of players getting a little chippy, as if you're a referee, you know, tough task with dealing with these two rivals, making sure it's a clean game. You want to let them play. Don't over-penalize either of these teams, but you don't want to let things get out of hand as well, especially in a game like this. 40-7 is the score. LA Valley leads. LA Pierce, 7 minutes left to go in the third quarter. First and 10 from midfield for LA Pierce. Andrew Young in the game. Look to his right. Throws it to Pelletier, and Pelletier deflects this one up. Harrell catches it off the deflection. Intercepted. Intercepted by LA Valley, and LA Pierce is lucky that he fell down to a knee to make the catch because he had a lot of room out in front of him. Probably could have gone into the end zone for a touchdown. So LA Valley now starts with the ball at their own 35-yard line. One play, and it's a turnover. Don Harrell gets his first interception. He started off the year as a receiver, made the transition to defensive back. 6:54 left to go in the third quarter. Johnson with three receivers to his right. He looks that way, throws it out to Herring. Herring catches it at the 38, gets to the 41-yard line before he's dragged down. The receivers on the field for the Monarchs: Joseph Painter, Adrian Wallace, Quentin Herring, and Daniel Mauricio, the kicker. So we're seeing some guys you don't usually get to see in action. Ethan Azan also checked in at left tackle. He didn't start the game. I thought he was out due to an injury, but he's back in there. Painter now gets the screen on the left side. He gets a key block, makes a defender miss, passes midfield. There's a flag thrown out the play as he's nailed out of bounds at the 36-yard line. One of the referees took a nasty fall, but he got up very quickly, unfazed. I believe he was the one who threw the flag too, so maybe got caught throwing the flag and didn't see the ball carrier running right into his legs. It is a penalty on LA Valley. Block in the back. Block on the back on Daniel Mauricio. He's the kicker. Sure, he hasn't practiced a whole lot of reps at receiver, making a block on a screen, so tough call there for your second unit. Second down after the penalty. They'll redo it. 6:07 left to go. Ball is now at the Monarch 35-yard line, which is where this drive started. Johnson's in the backfield with, I believe that's Shane Bennett. We haven't seen Shane Bennett in quite some time. Sophomore running back from Pacoima. Three receivers to Johnson's right. LA Pierce brings 6 defenders. Wide open in the flats is Andre Lawson, and Lawson thought about running before he caught it. No one around him for about 10 yards, and he couldn't haul that one in. Lawson, a freshman out of Gardena High School. 5 players on this roster, or at least at the start of the season, came from Gardena High School. Relatively good program in the LA area. 5:45 left to go in the third quarter. Johnson, again, 3 receivers over to his right. Devon Jones, the lone receiver, to his left on the near side. Johnson gets the snap. Gets a key block there. Now is forced to backpedal. Shane Bennett makes a catch at the 30-yard line. He hurdles the defender but is pushed out of bounds at the 34. So Johnson had such a deep drop back, but Shane Bennett was able to free up in the open field, and looks like they're going to run out their punting unit. And, you know, LA Valley has been on the wrong side of some blowouts this season, so it's only right for them to put it on to LA Pierce the way other teams put it on to them. If you were here for the opening game of the 2021 season, LA Valley lost that one to Mount Sac 72-0. Now Kalanji going to take it on the keep. He runs to the right side, gets to the 44, and can't get enough for a first down. So it comes up a yard short. LA Pierce able to hold them. Is there a flag? The referees are talking things over. Offsides. So offsides on the defense, 5-yard penalty. They'll do the punt again. No, too many men on the field, excuse me. LA Pierce shooting themselves in the foot. They have over 18 penalties in tonight's game. Now it looks like Johnson and the offense is going to march back onto the field with 4:55 left to go. Timeout called by the Monarchs. Lester Towns going to talk things over. Coach Towns in his second season with the Monarchs, a coach who has a very colorful background in football, played at the University of Washington, went on to play for teams like the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins in the NFL, spent some time coaching as an assistant in the NFL, also spent some time coaching at the University of Alabama before coming here to LA Valley College as the head coach. I believe he also spent some time as an assistant for Glendale. If you're a high school player, senior, or even a junior upperclassman looking for places to play, and maybe D1 is not in your sights right away, right after high school, nothing wrong with going to the community college level. Very competitive field of football, especially here in the state of California, and look no further than LA Valley if you're in this LA part of LA. I'll try it again. 4th and 2. Let's see if they run a fake, and it is a fake. Straight to Fuller Jr. Fuller Jr. takes a direct snap, hurdles a defender, and falls forward to the 49. First down for the Monarchs. Direct snap straight to Fuller. He just took it to the left, made 2 defenders miss, hurdled another one. And with 4:45 left to go, it's a first down, ball on the Monarch 48-yard line. Just to continue the thought, if you are a high school player looking to play at the next level, Coach Towns, I'm sure, having experience both in the NFL and at big programs like University of Alabama, will definitely have you situated for success with the connections he knows. Free rusher comes in as LA Pierce rushes 6. Johnson forced to dance around. He makes the 3 defenders miss. He spins over another one. 4 defenders miss, and wide open is Painter. Painter gets a block from Herring down the sideline, and he's in for a touchdown. That's Adrian Wallace, Johnson pulled a little Houdiniac. That was some play there by Isaiah Johnson. He had a free rusher coming at him from his right side. Tried to make him miss. Then all of a sudden, 3 rushers were at him. He stepped up, somehow sidestepped all 3 of them, and then had another defender in his face, spun move around him. And after making that defender miss, he was able to find Adrian Wallace wide open at the 30, and he ran down the field. Quentin Herring made a nice downfield block on the safety, and it was an easy touchdown. Johnson's having a phenomenal final game. This is a bad snap on the PAT. Mauricio, he picks this one up at the 30. I don't know what his intentions were, but he did slip as he tried to cut up field. So I think The slip might have been the best thing for him to do. 46-7 with 4:03 left to go. Reminder, you are watching LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Hey, let's get you some of those all-conference players I mentioned. We already got the special teamers out of the way. We got the offense out of the way. How about the guys in the trenches on the defensive side? Well, I have LA Valley's very own David Francis Jr. in conference. He had 7 tackles, but he had led the conference with 4 sacks, and he was 7th in the conference with 4.5 tackles for loss entering tonight's game. He has 2 tackles for loss in tonight's game, so you can mark that total to 6.5, excuse me. Then I have 3 AVC, Antelope Valley College players. Brandon Goodman, he was 2nd in the conference with 3 sacks, also 4th in the conference with 6 tackles for loss. Also, at edge rusher, Xavier Tatham, 20 tackles, 4 sacks, tied for first with David Francis Jr. 7 tackles for loss, which was 2nd in the conference, and a forced fumble. And then Asai Martinez, also from the Marauders, 17 tackles, 2 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss, which was 1st in the conference. And that's the reason why he makes my all-conference team. This is the kick from Jackson to the 26. Moreno, burst of speed, passes midfield, and tripped up. Good tackle there by Wallace, I believe, who just caught the touchdown. I know that was Painter on the tackle. He made the contact at 48. And there is another flag somewhere. Yes, flag on the far sideline at the 46-yard line. So a lot of flags here in the second and third quarter of action. So my defensive linemen and some of those players listed as linebackers like David Francis Jr. and Xavier Tatham. However, because they play that edge position, it's more of like a D-line, defensive front, all-conference. So David Francis Jr. from LA Valley, Brandon Goodman Jr. from Antelope Valley, Xavier Tatham from Antelope Valley, and Asai Martinez from Antelope Valley. 3 Antelope Valley Marauder defensive linemen that make my all-conference team. We'll get you linebackers at the next break in the action. 1st and 10. From the LA Valley 46-yard line. Starting on the plus side of the 50 is LA Pierce. It's a reverse. No, fake reverse. Dennis Jones keeps it on the right side, and he goes nowhere. Loss of 6 yards on the play. John Moore was not fooled. Good discipline there by the defensive back, John Moore. Another sophomore defensive back from Simi Valley. Ball now at the LA Pierce 49-yard line. 3:25 left to go. And it looks like Richard Graham's going to need to come off. Maybe a cut on his arm as their referees are pointing towards something. Monarchs bring 5. Young steps up in the pocket, has room to run, takes off now to the right side. It's a foot race. He gets past the 40, hit hard from the back. It's a dangerous throw, and they're going to call a flag. A flag on who? It was an open field tackle. Another flag is thrown. Francis Jr. made the hit from the behind. Andrew Young was focused on the players in front of him. Unnecessary roughness on Francis Jr. Maybe he led with the helmet. I didn't get a clean look at that. But Andrew Young was so focused on the defenders in front of him, he actually hit the brakes, and coming in full speed right from the back is Francis Jr. The quarterbacks are very protected when they're in the pocket. However, when quarterbacks do break contain, they are considered a runner, and rules do change at the collegiate and at the professional level. So must have been a targeting or unnecessary roughness called on Francis Jr. Nonetheless, still a big play. Got the home crowd off their seats. 1st and 10 from the Monarch 20. Swings it out to Moreno. No. Excuse me. That is Mills on the catch. There's another penalty flag. This one's in the backfield. LA Pierce now at 23 penalties on the evening. A night to forget for Coach Harris. That's a holding penalty on LA Pierce, so march them back a little bit to the 30. First and 20. 2:35 left to go in the third. Francis Jr. is going to check out. DeAnthony Jackson is going to check in, as well as Juan Perez. TK Drain also on the field with Richard Graham, Michael Crowder, A.R. Ismael, Prince Inanzala, and Vernon Tucker. As there is another penalty flag thrown, more movement on the offensive line. Jelani Ellison also in the game as the corner position. John Moore also in that corner. Excuse me, that's not Prince Inanzala. It's William Kalanji on the near side corner, also the punter. So false start. Ball now on the Monarch 35, first and 25. Andrew Young with two receivers to each side of him. Monarchs, plenty of defenders dancing around the box. They only bring 4. Young faces pressure, and who else? That's 44, Vernon Tucker. Tucker, freshman linebacker from Beverly Hills. So just going backwards on this play. A lot of players chirping back and forth between LA Pierce and LA Valley. Tough look for LA Pierce as they trail 46-7. Still a whole quarter and a minute left to go in this game. This things could get really ugly here. I'm sure they're going to run the clock in the fourth quarter. You start to see some substitutions come in. And here's another penalty, delay of game. At this point, you almost feel a little bad for Coach Harris, who's the interim head coach here at LA Pierce. There's a thin roster, not a lot of talent on this roster. This team has struggled to score offensively, 13 points in total this year. So, you know, it's not a lot of things have gone right for LA Pierce. They showed up today late, about 40 minutes before game time. This is the handoff to Derek Cole, who was lined up at the fullback position. Freshman out of Van Nuys, usually plays defensive end. They also have their backup quarterback in, Peyton Pelletier, so maybe we'll see some trickery here. He's wearing number 18. .17 seconds left and ticking. About a 4-second differential between play and game clock, so they do need to get this play off. I formation, hand it off to Jenice Jones. He is chased down in the backfield, and Jojo Morales cleans it up. It was Elijah Hudson who got the initial penetration. He comes up holding his hand. We hope that he's okay. But Morales cleans it up. That's a big tackle for loss. They have gone this drive, it didn't start at the 20, but they were at their own 20, and somehow they ended up at their own 45. So they lost, what is that, 55 yards? Lost 55 yards in the span of 3 plays. Some of those were on penalties. Some of those are just on good defensive play by LA Valley. And that'll mark the end of the third quarter of action. Your score, LA Valley 46, LA Pierce 7. A reminder, you're watching LA Valley College football here on sportsnetusa.net. I'm Noah Alvarez. Let's get you some of the linebackers and defensive backs for the all-conference team. Linebackers, I'm going to start off with LA Valley's very own P.J. Trusty. He entered tonight's game with 19 tackles, which was good for tied for fourth, in the conference, and 3 tackles for loss. Made a lot of plays, too, in tonight's game to pad to his conference stats. I think he has a good chance of making the conference team. So running clock for the fourth quarter they just announced. Antelope Valley's Miles Cooney. He also was tied for fourth with 19 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, 3 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup on the season in the conference play. And then Santa Barbara's very own Jack Kilpatrick. He actually had a pick 6 in the game here against LA Valley. He finished the year with 16 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups. He was actually listed as a defensive back, but in the game we saw here at LA Valley, he played that nickel linebacker. As I mentioned, he had that interception. He was all over the field. So I'm going to give him my 3rd linebacker spot for the all-conference. Miles Cooney from Antelope Valley, Santa Barbara City's Jack Kilpatrick, and LA Valley's PJ Trusty are my 3 linebackers in all-conference this year. 4th and forever from LA Pierce's own 45-yard line. They're going to punt this one away. They get it down to Ellison. Ellison takes it at his own 24. He heads down the near sideline. He spins, but he steps out of bounds. Penalty flag thrown at the LA Pierce 43. As we await the penalty. And so because it is a final quarter and both teams agreed to it, there's only 10 minutes here in this final 4th quarter regular than the 15 minutes that we standardly see. It'll be a blindside block here on LA Valley on the return. So they'll start their drive at their own 40-yard line. Still opportunity to score some more points. 9:59 left to go in the 4th quarter. Only 1 second came off on that punt. Interesting. Interesting clock management here at Monarchs Stadium. 1st and 10 from the 40. Johnson still in the game. Some of the backup receivers also in the game for the Monarchs. They're going to motion Lawson from left to right. Give the handoff to Lawson. Lawson has a hole to run up, passes midfield, and is tackled down at the 46. He lost the ball, but the referees are going to say he was down by contact. So enough for a first down. It's a 12-yard gain. And it feels like LA Pierce is sort of just rolling over at this point. They were battling for much of the first quarter, but look very deflated as the simple inside zone play goes for 14 yards. Devon Jones also in there with Lawson, Daniel Del Villar. He's going to get motion from right to left. He gets the handoff now over on the left side. And he bounces off a few hits, then takes a big hit of his own at the 43. Some penalty flags get thrown in the backfield. Most likely a penalty on the Monarch offense. You like to see this, get all the players for the final game, some handoffs, get some touches. It's a holding penalty. Repeat second down. No, first down. Should be first down. It's now at the Monarch 43. Lawson, Del Villar, and Adrian Wallace on the field with Devon Jones. He's the lone receiver here on the near side. Johnson in the backfield. Taking snaps once again. He's going to hand it off. No, keep it on the right side. He has a hole, and he has a burst of speed, passes the 40. Stiff arms the defender, gets pushed out at the 30-yard line. He has some words for the fans over here in the home stand, having some fun with it. In the backfield, there was Elijah Porter, the freshman out of Dallas, Texas. Getting his first snaps of the season here at Monarch Stadium. 3 receivers to his left. Johnson with Bennett in the backfield. And it looks like there's a timeout taken on the field. 8:42 left to go. LA Pierce called the timeout. 8:42 left to go, so the clock will not run in this final 4th quarter, but there is only 10 minutes of action. 8:42 left to go. LA Valley has a 46-7 lead here on SportsNetUSA.net. I'm Noah Alvarez, and let's get you the defensive backs for my all-conference team. First defensive back I want to tell you about, LA Valley's very own Sean Wilson. He was a big impact player. He had 3 interceptions, which led the conference. He also had 3 pass breakups and 12 tackles. Played a lot of deep high safety, but also could play in the box too if you needed him to. Moore Park, Daniel Pierce is a double maker because he made it as a kick returner. He also makes it as a safety for me. Daniel Pierce had 16 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, tied for second in the conference with 2 interceptions. From Santa Barbara City College, Barry Buxton. We saw a lot of him in that game against Santa Barbara City College. Finished with 11 tackles, 5 pass breakups, which was second in the conference, a fumble recovery, and a tackle for loss. Johnson, this time hands it off to Bennett over on the left side. Bennett cuts up the field, now bounces out, now cuts back in. And he gets brought down at the 26-yard line. Good running there by Bennett to set up his blockers. Porter's going to check in. And the final 4th DB that I have, Antelope Valley's Augustine Lorfils. Looks like there's some, again, more extracurricular activity. Both teams chirping at one another. I think there was another flag thrown. Let me tell you about Augustine Lorfils real quick. Finished first in the conference with 29 tackles. He had a tackle for loss, an interception, and a pass breakup as well. So my 4 defensive backs for all conference. Augustine Lorfils Jr. from Antelope Valley. Moore Park's Daniel Pierce. LA Valley's Sean Wilson. And Santa Barbara's Barry Buxton. Barry Buxton III, that is, too. Want to mention that in his name. As that is a penalty on LA Pierce, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty with 8:17 left to go in the game. March the Monarchs 15 more yards down the field. This might be a CCCA record for most penalties in a game. Ooh. So ball now at the 13-yard line. 3 receivers to Johnson's right. They're in the red zone. Porter going to motion out to the right side of Johnson. LA Pierce rushes 6, hands it off to Porter. And he's man in the backfield by a few defenders. Chris Figueroa was the player first to get there and make the tackle for a loss. Johnson getting the play in from the sideline. Receivers are Andre Lawson, Daniel Del Villar. Joseph Painter, as well as Adrian Wallace. They're going to motion Wallace from left to right. He gets the handoff, cuts up the middle, reaches forward to the 14-yard line. That's the freshman receiver from Pacoima. Went to Silmar High School. Not too far from here in the valley, the San Fernando Valley. Also making some substitutions is LA Pierce, trying to get some fresher legs. Hard to do so when you only have 29 players on your roster. Valley. Johnson drops back, throws it over to the left side and wide open. Over on that left side is Joseph Painter. Joseph Painter, as I mentioned, that freshman from Pacoima, gets the touchdown, his first on the season. I think one of the LA Pierce players tried to draw an unsportsmanlike conduct. Kind of flopped there, but no penalty flag was thrown, so we should be good to do the PAT without any penalty being thrown. That's Painter's first touchdown, second reception of the season, first touchdown on the evening. He's getting in on the action. Good for the youngster. This is a fake. Del Villar gets a high snap. I don't know if it was an intended fake or if just it was a high snap. But the 2-point conversion attempt is no good. Your score here is 52-7 in favor of LA Valley. Battle of the Victory Bell between LA Valley and LA Pierce. We've already heard the Victory Bell get rung a few times here in the game, and I'm sure they're going to ring it much more when that clock hits 0. 6:31 left to go in the fourth quarter. You're listening to LA Valley College football here on SportsNetUSA.net. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're catching this live stream or on the replay on YouTube. Everyone here at SportsNetUSA.net, thanks you for tuning in. It's been a fun season calling games for LA Valley. Again, thank you to Coach Dave Malice, Brian, Nick, all the people up here in the booth that have helped me with internet, with name pronunciations, with food, snacks, water, anything. It's been a pleasure to broadcast LA Valley College here, Monarchs Stadium. A lot of injuries that they face this year, but they still battle, and I think that's something that you want to hang your hat on if you're Coach Lester Towns and you're recruiting kids for the ensuing season in 2022. Yeah, we had some injuries. We had 3 injuries, all 3 quarterbacks injured. We might get 1 or 2 of them back. And even though we were injured, we battled. We upset the number 25th ranked team in the nation, in the state, in Santa Barbara City College when they came. There was another big hit away from the play here on the kickoff, but this one did go out of bounds, so it'll be a flag. Been a pleasure watching players like Richard Graham, PJ Trusty, Elijah Hudson step up for these Hornets on defense. David Francis Jr., can't forget about him as well. As I mentioned, not a whole lot of defensive line, not a lot of big players on this defensive front, but they've used their speed, they've used their energy, their high motors to still create penetration, still create a pass rush, still hold the run of opposing teams. They've been in some tight games. This is a quick throw from Pelletier. No, excuse me. Is that it? Yeah, that is number 18, Pelletier, now at quarterback. Freshman from Tucson, Arizona, standing at 6'2". Swings it out to Terry, the receiver over on that right side. .603 left to go in the fourth quarter. And for LA Pierce, well, might be difficult to grab some recruits after this season. They do have a few makeup games to finish their season next week. They at least have one on their school website schedule. They have a game next week against Santa Monica. I don't know for sure if they'll make up their game against Santa Barbara City College. It's a handoff to their fullback, Mercer, and he gets 2 yards, enough for a first down. Moves the chains at the 46. But LA Pierce potentially might finish 0-9 this season, maybe 0-10. They only put up, after tonight's game, 20 points of offense this entire season. They have to do a lot of recruiting. Fullback may have moved. They hand it off to him. No penalty called. Mercer drops the ball, puts the ball on the deck, and guess who has it? TK Drayen. Pick 6, TK Drayen. He has 2 pick sixes, and he has a convoy of LA Valley defenders in front of him to lead block. This time, he steps out of bounds at the 34-yard line. He actually ran over one of his players as he crossed fields. It was Mercer who took the handoff, the fullback. And they gashed him for about 5 yards, but someone punched the ball out. TK Drayen was there to pick it up. He has 2 defensive touchdowns on the season already. He was another Moore Park transfer with Johnson and Fuller Jr. It's a fun sophomore class. Another blindside block on LA Valley. They marched the ball to the 16-yard line, 17-yard line, excuse me. They called the blindside block penalty on LA Valley. However, they marched it towards LA Valley's end zone, so a little head scratcher there. Maybe it was on LA Pierce, but if it was a blindside block, they were on defense on that fumble return. Regardless, 4:55 left in the fourth. LA Valley still has a 52-7 lead. Three receivers over to Johnson's left. Shane Bennett in the backfield alongside Johnson. He hands it off to Bennett. Bennett on the left side has some room, tries to get the edge. He does, and he gets pushed out of bounds at the 9-yard line. The 9-yard line, so gain of 9 by Shane Bennett. Another sophomore from Pacoima. Went to Birmingham High School in the area. Had 22 carries on the season entering tonight's game. Second down and 1 at the LA Pierce 9-yard line. This is also handed off to Bennett up the middle. Bennett showing good tenacity there to muscle his way towards the 7-yard line. Gain of 2. It'll be enough for a first down. First and goal coming up for the Monarch offense. Just to go over, while we have the camera on the video, camera down on the action. My all-conference team at quarterback, Antelope Valley's Caden Hinton. Running back, Jerry Martin from Santa Barbara City. Also other running back, Xavier Clay from Antelope Valley. Wide receivers, I have LA Valley's very own Dupree Fuller Jr., who's no longer in the game, but he had a big game tonight. As Johnson takes a snap, motions Del Villar from right to left, hands it off to him. Gets 2, maybe 3 really tough yards, tackled down at the 4-yard line. Also a receiver, I have Tariq Brown from Santa Monica City College. Antelope Valley's Carlos Hill, also in on the receiving. Kicker, I have George Figueroa from Santa Barbara City. Kick returner, I have Moore Park's Daniel Pierce. Punt returner, I have Santa Barbara City's Marcus Bayonne. And for the defensive side of the ball, the defensive front, I have David Francis Jr. from LA Valley. Brennan Goodman Jr. from Antelope Valley. Xavier Tatham from Antelope Valley. And Isai Martinez from Antelope Valley. Handoff to Mac. Mac gets brought down after a gain of maybe half a yard. Now they mark him down at the 4, so no gain on that play. 2:42 left to go in the fourth quarter. At linebackers, I have Antelope Valley's Miles Cooney, Santa Barbara's Jack Kilpatrick, LA Valley's PJ Trusty. Defensive backs, Augustine Lordfields Jr. from from Antelope Valley. Moore Park's Daniel Pierce, LA Valley's Sean Wilson, Santa Barbara City's Barry Buxton III. And my honorable mention, who I should have probably snuck in there, is Elijah Hudson. Elijah Hudson, not in the game right now. He plays defense, but he predominantly started as a running back as this throw is batted away. Intended for Painter. Fourth and goal from the 4. Hudson started off the year as a running back, finished the year with 17 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4.5 tackles for loss. He has more stats than that because that was the stats entering tonight's game. So Elijah Hudson may actually get in as a defensive end, which is pretty absurd to think because he did start off the year as a running back. Played all 5 of the games conference-wise at the defensive end position. So he should qualify. Has enough stats to back it up. They're going to attempt this PAT. And they're going to call a timeout. Lester Towns does, as there was 1 second left on the play clock. And we'll be right back after this. Back here at Monarchs Stadium for this PAT attempt. Daniel Mauricio going to attempt this PAT. No, excuse me, not a PAT, a field goal. Ball is technically on the 3-yard line. LA Valley up 52-7. They're going to actually motion Lawson, so it might be another fake. Daniel Del Villar throws it up to Richard Graham, and this one goes incomplete. It was intended for Richard Graham, the do-it-all defensive end / linebacker. But it'll be LA Pierce ball here at their own 4-yard line. It's been a fun season broadcasting games for LA Valley. I want to thank everyone here at Monarchs Stadium for helping with the broadcast. Coach Dave Malice especially, the athletic director. Also the baseball coach. We want to wish him best of luck this season in his sport season come springtime. Thank you to Brian, thank you to Kyle, thank you to all the PA announcers and the statisticians who have helped with the broadcast. Name pronunciations, getting snacks, water, anything to make the broadcast go smoother. I want to thank you, the viewer, as I mentioned, whether you're watching the live stream or tuning into the replay, whether for just one game or all the games this season. LA Pierce comes out into I formation. They hand it off to the fullback again. Mercer, I believe that is. I'm trying to get you a number. .150 left to go in this fourth quarter. You see the victory bell there as they zoom in on it. The victory bell will remain here at LA Valley College in the community of Valley Glen. And LA Pierce, if they want to get that victory bell back here in this rivalry game, they got some work to do. It's a program that hasn't done too well these past few years. Also want to thank the Monarch Detective YouTube page that has great interviews with LA Valley College players throughout the season. This ball is fumbled. TK Drayton picks it up. Third defensive touchdown on the season for TK Drayton. There's a good interview on Monarch Detective of TK Drayton, if you're interested. As I mentioned, Monarch Detective on YouTube. Insightful interviews with some of the Monarch players this season. It's another touchdown for the Monarchs. 58-7 is the score pending the extra point. An emphatic win for Lester Towns. We mentioned it in the game against Santa Barbara City. Lester Towns hadn't had a signature win in his tenure here at with the Monarchs. That win where they upset Santa Barbara City College, that had to be your quote-unquote signature win. But this has to be another feel-good win too. Obviously, you look past it in the scorebooks, and if he's here for a long time, or even if he just looks at his career total, he's going to look at this game as, well, as a blowout. 58-7 is the score, pending the extra point. But nonetheless, it really put a statement for this team after such a rough year with injuries, players quitting, players switching numbers, players being added. Again, they're going to motion Martin. Now they're going to put him back just to make LA Pierce think we're going to do a field goal. And this was a bad snap. Mauricio just going to scoop this one. Oh, he laterals it to Daniel Del Villar and picking this up. Are you kidding me? Chris Figueroa on the far sideline. Can he get in for two? I think he did. Mauricio, I don't know what he was doing. I believe that was 28, Robert Ali Brown. Robert Ali Brown wearing number 28 for LA Pierce. What a way to end this for LA Pierce. I mean, at least you're able to put up more than a touchdown. It is a 2-point conversion, so they only get 2 points, adds to their score of 9. There is a flag thrown down on the field. Referees are huddled up, as you can see in the camera. Thank you to the camera operator for the very specific camera work. Can't do it without you. It was a bad snap. Mauricio probably should have just fell on it, and instead he picked it up, tried to lateral it over to Daniel Del Villar, or maybe even pass it because he hadn't passed it, so it could have been a forward pass. And intercepting that pass was Robert Ali Brown, defensive back out of Hawaii. I'm pretty sure I'm saying his name wrong. It might be Robert Alai. Actually, I don't want to butcher your name. So Robert Brown. Robert Brown from Hawaii. He gets the interception on the forward pass attempt by Mauricio. And then Daniel Del Villar, you know, he could have probably flagged him down. He got close to it at the corner of the end zone, but when you're up 52-7, you know, what's the point of running back so far, maybe? And so Brown gets into the end zone for 6. No, excuse me, not 6, for 2. 2-point conversion. So it's 58-9, pending these flags. Referees are going to talk it over, maybe ask what each other has planned for this evening. 1:16 left on the game clock. DeAnthony Jackson and the LA Valley kickoff unit is ready to go. Wow. So Ethan Hazan for LA Valley has been ejected, and number 33 for LA Pierce, which I don't have here on my roster. Both just got ejected for fighting. So probably away from the return. Big Hazan and 33 for LA Pierce have been ejected. There's some confusion as to who has been ejected for the LA Pierce side. However, Jackson's ready to kick this ball off. Rather interesting way to end this season for LA Valley and LA Pierce this game. 58-9 is the score. 1:16 left to go. Jackson. Ooh, it's an onside kick. A little trickery. And Sean Wilson. Sean Wilson recovers the onside kick. It was an onside kick from A.R. Ismail. Interesting decision there to onside kick it when you're up by so big. I'm sure Lester Towns maybe wants to get his offense a few more snaps, maybe hand it off to a few other backup players. We'll see. We'll see what's in store for this LA Valley offense. I get taking it to your rival, especially in a down year, but as the PA announcer plays "Why Can't We Be Friends," very fitting after that onside kick. It does look like the ball's here at midfield, and Isaiah Johnson is in victory formation. So they do the onside kick, some trickery on the kickoff unit, only to kneel the ball. Kneel the clock out. Johnson knees it once. He should only have to kneel it 2 more times, and that'll be game. Again, want to thank Coach Dave Malice, everybody here with LA Valley Athletics for helping out with the broadcast this season, with internet, with snacks, with water, with name pronunciations, with everything. As players shake hands from both sides, which you love to see. The LA Valley home crowd is giving a standing ovation here on this Saturday evening. It was a rather warm day today. Temperatures reached about 89 degrees in the LA area. However, things cooled off temperature-wise, but things heated up for LA Valley in this victory. That last kneel down should take us to the end of the game as the clocks roll down all the way to 0. I'm Noah Alvarez. Thank you again for tuning in to another LA Valley broadcast here on SportsNetUSA.net. Next week on SportsNetUSA.net, we will have an ELAC wrestling event. I will be there with another sportsnetusa.net colleague of mine, and we'll be covering ELAC wrestling. You can also catch other sportsnetusa.net events on that website. That's sportsnetusa.net. Again, myself and Albert Robles will be there at East LA College next week for an wrestling event if you're into wrestling, community college level. And sportsnetusa.net has you covered for all community college sports. And basketball will have games, and the spring season will have games as well, both softball and baseball. So make sure you tune into sportsnetusa.net for all your community college needs. Again, I'm Noah Alvarez, signing off from here at Monarchs Stadium for the final time in the 2021 season. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We hope to see you guys next year in the 2022 season with Coach Lester Towns and company. The final score from tonight's game, LA Valley 58, LA Pierce 9.